Continuing on with the Uprise workflow, I have the ship here imported from last week, and we did the VDB from Polygon, and then I have the transformation which animates the spaceship. Cool. So my idea is this. I want to work with these points. I'm going to copy them, and these are the RBD packed points. Okay, and I want to capture the nearest point that the ship is going to come across, which means that it's probably interacting with it. So that's the part I want to isolate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scatter colors points here, and then I'm going to transfer information from these points onto these points. So for now, I'm going to use a color so it's visible. I'm going to set it to red, and I'm going to scatter more points. Okay, so we have that, and then I'm going to use an attribute transfer from this onto this, and it's already showing up. And I'm going to set this to black, and if we go here, you see the spaceship is now rising, and everything it touches is colored in red. But the problem is it's only affecting one frame. So if I go to this frame, it's only affecting that much. If I go to this frame, it's affecting other pieces, and I don't want that. I want to know which piece has been affected for its entire lifetime. So when I go to 350, I want to see the entire result, and we're going to do that using a sub solver. So I'm going to plug in the first input here, and I'm going to dive inside, and it crashed. Okay, I'm going to restart Houdini quickly, and then we'll continue. So we're going to use a subsolver to accumulate the result over time, and let me recreate it again. Solver, hope it's not going to crash. I'm going to dive inside, and we have the previous frame, and what I want is I want to always combine the current result with the previous result. So the color of the previous frame is always added to the next frame, and that way it's additive, it's accumulating over time. I'm going to use that, I'm going to do that using Wrangle. So I'm going to say the current color is equal to the previous color plus the current one. So let's say from the I'm going to create a vector, and I'm going to call it a color, and this one is going to read the color attribute from the second input. So 1 is the second input. The attribute name I want is color CD, and then I want the P to use the point number because the points are always the same. So now I have the result from the previous frame. All I'm going to do is I'm going to add it. Is plus equal, or I can simplify it, be at CD plus color. Okay, so now if we go up and hit play, see there, touched, and it's stayed there, and then it's continuously adding plus the color to itself, and that's why it's going above 1. If we look at the color value here, you can see it's 161, the maximum value, and we wanted to clamp it. We don't want it to go above 1. So here I'm going to say plus equal, so to simplify this, and then V at CD is equal clamp of V at color between 0 and 1. So I'm just gonna clamp everything, and if we hit play, it's not gonna go above 1. Okay, so now we know that's where the spaceship, those are the things that the spaceship interacted with. Okay, but I think the radius is too big, so I'm gonna lower the transfer attribute. So let's go here, and let's template the spaceship. See, it's quite big. I don't want it to affect that far, So I'm gonna reduce the amount to something like this. Check. We'll go with 4. And let's run the subsolver again. I didn't touch some of these, and that's fine. We can increase the value later. It's totally up to you. For now, I'm gonna keep it at this value just to illustrate the idea. And right now we have the ones that we want are red and the ones that we don't want are black. So I'm gonna say I at appres, I'm gonna create an attribute is equal 0 if the color d at cd.x is higher than 0.4. If it's red, I'm gonna change the appres to 1. Okay, so that's my attribute. And if I look at it, I have an attribute, an appres attribute. What we want now is we want to transfer this information back onto the RBD. And the main reason I went with these points because they are better to work with in this scenario. It's easier to deal with a bunch of points versus having to work with the high-res geometry. And so we have 1 point for each piece. We link them with a name attribute. Okay, so see, we have a name attribute here. We have a name attribute here. And I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna say copy attribute copy. This is my first input I want to copy the attribute to, and then this is my incoming data. So what I want to copy is the appres, and the point doesn't match here, so I'm going to use match by attribute, and the attribute is going to be name because both of these are named correctly. And let's try blasting, or let's look at the values. Okay, so we have the values copied. I'm going to say appres equal 1. It's a point attribute, and there we go. If we do delete non-selected, those are the pieces I'm going to work with. The viewport is changing. Sorry. Yes, so the result is accumulating over time, and we only care about the last frame. So I'm going to do a time shift and freeze frame it here. So we account for everything, and it doesn't change over time. And those are the pieces we're going to appres. Done deal. And then everything else is going to be the same. Okay, cool. So we'll continue in the next video. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in a bit.